recording. Hi everyone, my name is RR, and today I'm gonna share with you my story of moving from the Philippines to Canada as an international student. So as mentioned in my previous video, I didn't have any family or relatives when I went here. I decided to study here and to hopefully become a permanent resident. That's my my goal, and we're still in the process of becoming one, and I'm hoping that it would be given soon. But I wanted to share with you is what I wanted to share with you is my story when I arrived here back in 2021. It was in the middle of a pandemic when I arrived here in Canada, and it was quite a challenge for me given that I don't have anyone here. I don't know any family or close relatives to help me adjust. So when I arrived here in Canada, one of the biggest challenges is learning, um, you know, learning a lot of things, and being independent is one thing, and another one is to be confident and never be shy or feel bad every time you don't know anything. Like for example, you don't know how to commute, you don't know uh, how to budget your money, you don't know where to get your your food, where to get your needs and wants. That's another thing. I think what I'm gonna share with you is my journey when I arrived from the Philippines to Canada. When I arrived here, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and there was quarantine restrictions in place. One of the requirements was the quarantine plan. I don't think it's required anymore, but before, you need to prepare a quarantine plan before you will be able to arrive here in Canada. It's included in the Arrive Can application requirements. You need to provide also a copy of your proof of vaccination that would show that you are vaccinated against COVID. Um, in addition to that, you also need to provide a copy of your letter of acceptance from the university or the college where you will be studying, as well as immigration documents, the ones that were provided to you by IRCC. One of the one of the unique requirement. I don't think this is something required to a lot of people. I think this is only to few people with medical conditions or findings when they had a medical exam. You will be seeing some of your friends, maybe some people undergoing additional medical exams, and in particular, this is what we call the medical surveillance. And the medical surveillance is one of the requirements by IRCC for those with findings for tuberculosis. Although I was already cleared when when I left the Philippines, I had the medical done at the chosen panel physician, which is St. Luke's Medical Center. I still had to undergo the medical surveillance when I arrived here in Canada. So we'll talk about the medical surveillance in a while, but what I wanted to share with you are, the requirements or the first things you need to accomplish when you arrived here in Canada. So what are these things? I'll try to, list them or limit them to 5. Number 1 is you need to have a SIM card, very important. Number 2 is you need to open a bank account. Number 3 is to apply for a social insurance number. Number 4 is to get a travel card, or if you're living here in Toronto, you would need to have your Presto card. And number five is to uh, apply for uh, apply for a job, maybe a part-time or a full-time job, or if not, I think one of the important things is to find a place where you will be staying long term. I think five or six things. Sorry. So number one is to uh, buy a SIM card. It's very important that you have a SIM card as soon as you arrive at the airport, because this is your way of communicating with people from the Philippines, if you are from the Philippines, or from the home country where where you are from. And when I arrive at the airport, there are I think shops where they sell SIM cards. It just so happened that when I arrived at the airport, it was already in the evening, late in the evening, and they weren't open anymore. And I didn't had an opportunity to check the different plans or mobile plans that they have. So I was just only able to purchase a SIM card the next day. And it's very important to select your own mobile plan. This is depending on your data usage. Some of us really like uploading photos, videos. Some of us really use it for communicating with people online, and you're gonna need a lot of data. So this really depends. And one thing I like about the mobile plans or getting a number here in Canada is you'll be able to select your own number. This is something that they explained to me when I purchased my SIM card. I was told to select my own number. I think the last four digits and the first three digits, which is I think the local code. For Toronto, it's I think 416 or 647. So I had to choose my own number, which is good. I don't think it's something we can do in the Philippines, but having that freedom to choose the number that you want is really cool. Second thing that I wanted to share with you about is opening a bank account. This is very important because this is gonna be your way to transfer some of your money from the Philippines. If you're an international student, you don't have to bring the required amount, the total required amount. Here in Canada, I think there's just a certain amount that you can bring with you as pocket money, and it's very important that you have a bank account so that when you already apply for a job, you can just share with them a copy of your account number, and it will be used for depositing your salary. Another thing is you need to schedule an appointment with the banks here in Canada. It just so happened that the bank that was close to my place was RBC, or Royal Bank of Canada. So I was able to book an appointment with them. They told me about the different accounts, checking and savings, and you can also get your own credit card. And I think they also gave me some banknotes as well. So that was just my experience. I just need to share it with you. So you need to book an appointment with the banks. The third thing that you need to prioritize is applying for a social insurance number. This is very important. The social insurance number is a number unique to you. There's only one SIN, a social insurance number, per person, and you shouldn't be sharing this with anyone aside from the employer where you wanted to work, or the one employer that will be giving you your salary or payment for your service. The social insurance number appointments are kind of a problem for me because when I was still in Brampton, the first place where I stayed here in Canada, they didn't accept any walk-in applicants, so I had to go to a different place or location to book my appointment. I was told by my friend who was in Mississauga that they have an office there, Service Canada. that accepts walk-in applicants. I went there. Even though I had a class, I traveled from Brampton to Mississauga. I saw that there was a long line, and I stayed there from 10 a.m. and I was only able to get my social insurance letter at around 4 in the afternoon. So if you're planning to do walk-in, my advice is to go to that Service Canada office really early, so you have a chance to get it earlier as well. So again, the first three things that you'll need to prioritize are getting a SIM card. Number two is opening a bank account. And number three is getting a social insurance number. The fourth thing that you needed to do is to purchase a travel card. In Toronto, what we call Presto card. This is very important if you are traveling, especially if you don't know anyone here in Canada. It's very helpful. You just put some load in there, load some funds. This works similar to, I think, a beep card in Manila, and you can travel using that card. You can ride a bus, you can ride a subway, you can take the trains or GO train, and it's very very helpful. And I think this is also one way for me to learn how to commute here in Canada, because I just tap. And I think back then when I purchased this Presto card, they have the student rate. So if you're an international student, I would ask I advise you to ask first if they have a student rate for you. And another thing that is important as well is looking for a place to stay here in Canada. If you were an international student, there's a lot of places where you can stay. There are apartments, there are condominiums, even rooms where you can stay. You just need to make sure that they are legit. Some of them, from friends, referrals. There are, I think, for some universities or schools, they also have their own dormitories or hotels or motels. I think back in 2021, I didn't know anybody, so I used to stay in an Airbnb place for 14 days because I thought that I would need to do a quarantine, but they told me I'm not required. But still, I had to stay there for 14 days because I needed to prioritize those three things, and I also have to find a place to stay for the long term. It just so happened that my father knows somebody here in Canada. She referred me to somebody else who is also here in Toronto. So from Brampton, I moved to Toronto after 14 days. And I think it's very important that you also try to network with people. Maybe they know a place where you can stay for the long term. If not, try to join Facebook groups. I think they have posts from time to time. We can check. They have available rooms, they have available units. So I think it's very useful and very helpful as well. The next thing is trying to look for a part-time or a full-time job. If you have a work permit, if you're a student, you need to apply for a part-time job using the SIN that you received, and also the bank account number that you have. You can already find a part-time job or a full-time job here in Canada. It's quite a challenging experience for me because during that time when I arrived, it was in the middle of a pandemic in 2021, and most of the jobs were not available, or they prefer people who will work the physical stores. Like for example, if you're if you wanted to work in a department store, that's an opportunity for you. If you wanted to work in a restaurant, there's also another opportunity. What I had difficulty in back then is applying online. Like I submitted a lot of resumes to a lot of employers. I didn't receive a lot of replies or feedback from them, and I felt disappointed at some time, and I had to go to the physical stores, go to door-to-door applications with my hard copies of my resumes, and applied there. I filled out the application forms, and you know s- you don't know whether or not they have an opening, but I think my advice is just to keep trying. You don't know when or who will contact you, so make yourself available. Make sure that your phone is also not in silent mode or not in airplane mode, so in case they need to contact you, you should be able to get their notifications or their calls. So yeah, it's very important to prioritize these things if you're new here in Canada. I think for some people, they're asking where do you apply for a job here in Canada, and I did mention in some of my videos that it's quite challenging if you are going to apply from the Philippines directly. um, unless you know an employer who is willing to sponsor you here to work in Canada. You really need to make sure that you have all the requirements ready. And based on my experience, it's a really hard. Um, I think it was really hard for me, especially if you're from the Philippines applying for a job here, unless you know somebody else, you know a relative who can help you find an employer here in Canada who is willing to sponsor you. Um, then it's gonna be a different story. uh, but what I used to do is submit my resumes to LinkedIn employers. Um, I used Indeed, I used Monster CA, I used Job Bank Canada. I submit my resumes there, and just keep trying and apply to as many employers as possible. And don't feel bad if you get rejections. It's just part of the process. It's part of the journey. So don't feel bad. At least you'll learn something from it. What else? Yeah, when you are applying and you're submitting your resumes, make sure that your resumes are in Canada format, meaning no pictures, no colors, just plain text. Make it short, keep it simple. What else? Yeah, I think that's all I have to share with you guys, but I hope they're very useful. Some of these I had to learn by myself. Nobody taught me about them. So I'm sharing it with you, hoping it would also help you and give you some guidance when you arrive here in Canada. I do wish you all the best, and for those who are thinking about applying here in Canada, either for studying or working, now's the best time for you to apply. Uh, I think it's gonna be worth it, guys. Don't worry about it. Just trust the process, trust the journey, and if it's for you, they will give it to you. All right, thanks everyone. And if you like this video, please don't forget to click like and subscribe. See you on my next video.